Today we're getting a jump start on spring by getting some dahlias planted into one of our hoops. So we thought we would show you kind of what that entails. So the dahlias that we're planting in the hoop are a little bit higher dollar value for us. These are our cafe au laits and our sweet Natalies that are going to go into this hoop. We'll plant a whole bunch of dahlias out on the field as well, but these ones are ones that we want to get a little earlier in the season. So we've gone through and we've dug holes all the way down the center of this hoop. They're about 2 foot apart on center and they're about 1 foot deep. And so we're going to amend them and then get to plant. So we're going to add to each of the holes a shovelful of well composted horse manure, just to add a little bit of organic matter to the holes and give the dahlias that extra little boost that they'll love. So we mix our own fertilizer for the dahlias so that we make sure that we are giving them the nutrients that they want. So this is a combination of fishbone meal and K-mag, as well as a little bit of blood meal in there, so that the overall NPK ratio of this fertilizer that we use in our dahlias is about a 3:18:15. So that's a higher phosphorus number, a higher potassium number, and a little bit lower nitrogen. We don't really want to encourage a whole lot of green growth. We want to encourage good root growth and, of course, beautiful blooms. So we're just going to mix in about a 1/2 cup or so into each of the holes before we plant. So these tubers, we store all of our tubers, in fact, in our walk-ins over the winter to keep them cool and from rotting or drying out. So these ones we pulled out for about 3 weeks ago in anticipation of planting them right now, and that we pulled them in and put them into our house in our living room to just kind of try to get them to warm up and to pop some eyes so that we can make sure that they're viable before we plant them in the hoops. So you can see with these tubers, this one in particular, you can see that the eyes are starting to pop right around the crown. There's one right there and one down here. So we want to make sure that we have viable tubers so that we're not using our valuable hoop space to plant duds. You can also notice by those tubers that we plant a little bit larger clump as opposed to just a single tuber. For our use and for the production that it gets us, it's well worth us planting back a little bit larger tubers so we make sure we get that production that we need out of the tubers for our season. So when we go to plant the tubers, we want to make sure that we mix all of those pieces that we added to the hole very thoroughly. So I'm going to mix the compost into the soil with the fertilizer, make sure that it's all well incorporated before I set the tuber in there. And then when I go to set the tuber in, I want to make sure that these are the stems from last year, so those are pointing up towards the surface of the soil. And I can see this little eye right here popping out, so I'm going to have that facing up as well. I'm going to firm that tuber down into the soil and then cover it up loosely. I don't need to tamp it down super hard, but I do want the soil to be firm over it. The soil is a very nice consistency right now. It's not too dry, it's not too wet. So we're going to go ahead and get all of these planted and then water them in once they start to pop the surface, and we should be seeing blooms on them in just a couple of months. All right, we've got all the dahlias in, planted, and ready to start growing. At this point, we're going to let them pop through the surface, and then we'll lay down drip on top of them. We'll put 3 lines of drip on this bed, and then we'll go ahead and we'll net them. So we'll use Hortanova floral netting, but horizontally, and we'll put them up with T-posts so that we get a little bit more stability and support for the dahlias in this hoop. In our field dahlias, we do not use Hortanova. We do not use any sort of staking or netting because we don't really have a whole lot of wind issue. But in the hoop, because they grow so much quicker and they're a little bit floppier, we do need that extra support. So it's kind of a case-by-case basis for us, and it'll depend on where you're growing your dahlias as to how you need to support them. But we will check back in and show you the beautiful blooms later in the season. So until then, thanks for swinging by the farm, and we'll see you next time.